Good afternoon. It's Wednesday. It's 1:30. It's almost 1. That's 1:32. That's pretty good. We're almost on time today, man.
Might be the earliest we've started.
Might be the earliest we've ever started. I think you're right. Hey, it's the Sports Show with No Name. I'm your host. I'm Chad Bryan. I've got Ben Bales with me as always. Ben, what's going on this week, buddy? How you doing?
Good. Nothing much. Just relaxing, watching. NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
Avs got the first round sweep.
Yeah. Not surprising. They dominated the Heat, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
That's what I was just going to say. The playoffs are kind of in full swing now. Only two teams have moved on: the Cavs and their opponent, the Pacers, in the second round. Right?
Yeah.
Well, they took care of the Bucks pretty easily. I didn't expect that. That's not.
Dude, the Bucks had that. The Bucks had that game last night. They had that one and just sold it. They had one field goal made in the last 35 seconds in overtime.
Yeah. Well, I think Tyrese Halliburton's dad let him know about that.
Did you see what Halliburton said about it?
I did.
He said
what's he gonna say?
For it?
Yeah. He was like, I think he was wrong there. And what's he gonna say? I mean, that shouldn't have happened, right?
Yeah, no, it shouldn't have.
I think everybody handled it pretty well, though. I mean, nobody got out of control. Whatever. It just sort of happened, and then it was over. And I don't think it's a big deal. You might see a fine or something for somebody, but I don't know. Whatever. Not that big of a deal. Anyway, the Cavs swept the Heat, like you said. Got the sweep. Not just, they didn't just sweep them. Absolutely dominant fashion. They swept them actually in historic fashion. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And the NFL draft wrapped up this weekend. This past weekend was the end of the whole fiasco. Man, there were surprises. There were, I don't know. There was a little bit of drama. There were things that really maybe didn't surprise us so much. But I do want to check in with the Buckeyes. They had 14 people drafted. That was a draft high for any school. 14 people, just over. I think Georgia had 13, and someone else had 12. I don't remember who had 12. But yeah, the Buckeyes had 14 people, including 4 players taken in the first round. Emeka Egbuka, Donovan Jackson, Tyleik Williams, and Josh Simmons all went in the first round to Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, and Kansas City, respectively. So congratulations to them. Yeah.
I was talking to my dad. I told my dad, I said, if you're Emeka Egbuka, I don't think there's a better receiver room you could go into with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
Yeah, maybe not.
Like Mike Evans Mike Evans is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yeah. And then Chris Godwin is they're both just great, solid receivers. I don't think there's a better receiver room he could have gone into.
Yeah, I think that gives Baker Mayfield a really good, an escape valve over the middle without having to go to a tight end too. Because Egbuka is so good over the middle, he just has a knack for getting open.
I forget who said it. It might have been John Gruden when he was talking with Will Howard, but he just said that Emeka Egbuka runs some of the cleanest routes he's ever seen from the outside positions and even the slot. He says he's run some of the cleanest routes he's ever seen.
Yeah. Not surprising. I mean, if you've seen some of the guys that have come out of that wide receiver room in the last few years at Ohio State, it's not surprising that we're talking about another guy who runs great routes. Ben, your Steelers took a couple of Buckeye playoff heroes. They got Jack Sawyer at 123, and they took Will Howard at 185.
They did.
Sawyer at 123. Do you expect him to make an impact? I mean, I think he's going to be a pretty good player.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if they're going to play him as like a lineman or like an outside linebacker.
Do they primarily run a 3-4, right?
Yeah, they never change.
Yeah, I could see him as an outside linebacker in that system.
And
I think that would work.
If he's at outside linebacker, he's going to be 4th string, so he won't get many reps. But
is he going to be asked to cover? I'm not. Is that we never saw him really do that? We saw him drop back a couple times in zone, but
I don't think he'll be asked to cover.
Okay.
But I also do think if I was Pittsburgh, right, like at Ohio State,
if you were a whole city, what would you do?
At Ohio State, he played with his hand in the ground, right? He wasn't up rushing like TJ Watt was.
Yeah.
And I was telling my dad, I said, if I'm Pittsburgh, right, I explore the options of putting TJ Watt, Jack Sawyer, and Alex Highsmith all on the field at the same time, right? Because Sawyer, you could use Sawyer as a D lineman, right? In the 3-4. You could put him as one of the 3 D linemen. Yeah, he's not a traditional D lineman, but
he might be a tad undersized for yeah.
But if you got like a tight end on the edge or something, put him against a tight end, right? Like if you know for 100% sure the tight end's blocking, let's send these 2 guys this way, force one of them to cover Highsmith or TJ one-on-one, and then bring Sawyer off the other edge.
Okay.
Because I mean, it takes away chipping TJ Watt, because that's all teams did last year, because we never rushed help from TJ Watt's side. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing with the Browns getting Mason Graham too.
So is that why TJ Watt disappeared for a few weeks, you think?
That, and I just think, again, I think it's Terrell Austin's inability to to allow TJ Watt to roam and do the whole Myles Garrett thing where he goes wherever he wants. TJ Watt can do that, but
Yeah.
our defense coordinators
He showed
didn't
it. I
want
mean,
him to.
he's proven it. Yeah.
Yeah, our defense coordinators didn't want him to. And
Yeah.
like JJ Watt has said on Twitter, he's like people call TJ Watt out all the time saying, "Oh, your brother can only rush from this side." And JJ's like, "I promise you, he can rush from everywhere. They just won't let him."
Okay.
And this year, TJ said that he's going to start rushing more. Like he talked with Tomlin and stuff like that. So hopefully getting these defensive line. I love the Derek Harmon pick at 21. I love that pick.
Yeah.
Cam Hayward's getting older. He's not getting any younger.
Yeah. We talked about in the playoffs how good that defensive line for Oregon was. I mean, it's not surprising.
But like the Pittsburgh's biggest issue last year was stopping the run, right? We were okay against the pass because we could get home, but stop.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh went out and got some defensive linemen that are great against the run. The guy from Iowa, I can't think of his name. I think it's Yaya Black or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. I was gonna let you think it out, but yeah, you got it.
Derek Harmon.
Didn't know it until you said it.
And Derek Harmon's great against the run too. And then Sawyer's kind of just like that Swiss Army knife. He can rush the quarterback. He's decent against the run. He's not great against the run. He's decent. But I just think that I think it's kind of like the Browns pick with Mason Graham. Like the Browns needed that solidified defensive tackle.
Yeah.
That was great against the run, and Mason Graham was elite against the run in college.
Yeah, Sawyer kind of feels like one of those, like, you talk about like the tweener guys, right? Like he's just like a little bit too small to be on the defensive line, really. Maybe not. Just a touch less athletic than you'd want him to be at the typical outside linebacker spot. If he's, like I said, if you're going to ask him to cover, especially, I mean, if he's got to like, I don't know, grab a slot receiver coming across the middle, that's a huge mismatch.
Yeah.
Ideally, you'd want him on a tight end, but I'm not sure. We just never really saw him do that.
No, but State, I think it was Ryan Day that said it. He just said that Jack Sawyer just has that motto, that mindset of, like, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. And, like, you're going to have to kill me to get me off the field.
I think we saw that over his years at Ohio State. I mean, he was a guy who, I mean, initially he was a 5-star. I mean, like a can't miss prospect.
Yeah, didn't play.
Where there wasn't much production.
Yeah. And
he figured it out, though. And
I think, though, too, like with this defensive line, like if you look at it, I mean, like, yeah, Cameron Hayward's not like huge, right? I mean, he's a little bit undersized for a defensive tackle, but he's got that size to him. I feel like if Sawyer can get some more, like, obviously once you get to the NFL, you get bigger. Like every defensive lineman, offensive lineman does. It's just It's the nature of the game, right? So I know Jack Sawyer is going to get bigger. It just all depends on, whether they want to play him as as an actual D lineman or if they want to play him as an outside linebacker. I haven't heard yet, but if it was me, I would put him as a linebacker because, like you said, I think he's a little too small to play D line.
Yeah. I think he might get, he might get run over by some tackles in this league. I think, I think outside linebacker is a good spot for him.
I really do. I will say this, though, before we move on. I love what the Browns did, though. I know a lot of people hated trading back. Everybody wanted Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
But Browns fans, let me just say this, right? Like, yes, you drafted Shedeur Sanders this year. If it doesn't work out, right, you have all the draft capital in the world next year to move up into the top 5 to draft a generational quarterback.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Flacco and Pickett aren't going to be here at the end of the year. They're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Flacco does something insane.
Yeah, unless Flacco leads the Browns like the Super Bowl, he's gone.
Yeah, and then the Browns are handcuffed a little bit.
Or he might be brought back as like a backup.
Yeah.
But I think after this year, like you said, unless Flacco leads the Browns like the Super Bowl, you're looking at Shedeur Sanders as your starter next year. And if he gets playing time this year,
you think Sanders will be the starter automatically? Like
I'm saying if he plays.
Well,
this year,
you've seen Kenny Pickett up close, and you don't seem to have a lot of confidence in Kenny Pickett.
Well, no, I want Kenny Pickett to start as a Steelers fan, but realistically,
right.
But realistically, I think if Shedeur Sanders gets playing time this year and doesn't play well, I think the Browns I think the Browns should use their draft capital to trade in that top 5 and draft a guy like Arch Manning or one of those, great quarterbacks coming out.
Yeah, and there's always a guy that kind of like emerges too. Like, it doesn't, listen, the number 1 pick probably will be Arch Manning.
Yeah.
But there's always a guy or two that like kind of, like I said, they kind of emerge and prove themselves like maybe worthy of a top 5 or 10 pick at quarterback. Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out too.
But if you're the Browns, though, you got 2 first-round picks, right? You could do what I keep saying this. You could do what the Houston Texans did.
Yeah.
And you could turn your entire franchise around in one first round, right? The Texans went out and got C.J. Stroud, turned their offense around. went out and got Will Anderson. Boom, turned their defense around. Not saying the Browns need to, right? But defense last year wasn't great.
No,
And
it
offense
wasn't great. I mean, I think that's why you saw him go back and get Mason Graham. I think. Well, we'll talk about it in a minute because I just think Mason Graham is he's probably the guy with the highest floor in this draft.
I would agree.
I think,
especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think he's I think he's that guy that could be really, really good for a long time.
Yeah, and I know people don't always notice defensive tackles when they're really, really good for a long time. I mean, you got to be like Aaron Donald,
yeah,
right?
You got to be Aaron Donald good.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's obviously a critical part of the team. Like you always say, like, what do? You build from the inside out, right? And I don't think the Browns. Let's just get into the draft. Let's just talk about it because we talked about traded the second pick back to Jacksonville. Jacksonville immediately took Travis Hunter. I think we all expected that. I had been saying for weeks on the show that I thought the Browns would trade it back and get Mason Graham, which they did.
Yep.
I just don't think the Browns were ready to add a piece like Travis Hunter.
I don't either, and I think after teams saw that Super Bowl and saw how the Colts dominated with offensive line and defensive line, teams like, okay, wait, if we can beef up our offense and defensive line and be able to do this to whatever team we want, that makes our Super Bowl path a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Because when's the last time you saw a Kansas City Chiefs offensive line get dismantled that badly?
I mean, that was unbelievable.
Maybe the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game against the Chiefs, but
I had Michigan flashbacks. I thought Philadelphia knew what was coming. It was bizarre.
It was like, and even on the offense side of the ball too, like the Chiefs didn't get a pressure till like the fourth quarter.
Right.
And if you're looking at teams now, like the way I was looking at it, like my dad kept saying it. He's like, if I'm
and that Eagles defensive line is so strong. To your point, like you said, I mean,
yeah, and like my dad kept saying, he kept calling it a meat and potatoes draft because they were just getting all the big boys. Like, a lot of teams were drafting off offensive and defensive lines, and like I think the Eagles did I think the Eagles were ahead because they went out and they got all these great offensive and defensive linemen, and look what happened. Now all these teams are trying to play catch up.
Right, and even with Cam Ward, catch up. Is that a Heinz Field joke? Even with Cam Ward going number 1 overall, I don't think there wasn't like a can't miss quarterback prospect in this draft, was there?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. I liked Ward. I liked Shedeur Sanders. I like certain things about Jackson Dart. I don't know. I guess there are a couple other guys that are they show some promise, but
I like what Pittsburgh did though.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't take Sanders at 21. You waited all the way till the 5th round to draft Will Howard as kind of like that project guy. And if it doesn't work out, the Steelers have a lot of draft capital for next year too. I think we got 1 first round. I think we got 2 second-round picks, 3 third-round picks. So we got a lot of draft capital as well to trade up into the 1st round and get a quarterback as well. If the quarterback room we have now doesn't work out, which it probably won't, but
yeah. I think the Browns move was perfect. I think if you're, like I said, you're not really they're not rebuilding, but they're kind of retooling right now, right? Like they've got talent on that roster, but you have to have a quarterback. And I think to add, if you really think that Travis Hunter is a generational talent at wide receiver, why add him if you don't have a sure thing at quarterback?
I agree.
What does it do?
I think the Browns drafting Quinshon Judkins and the running back from Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
I think that
they complement each other really, really well. And I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I want to talk about Carson Schlesinger first. First of all, it's a mouthful. I can't say his name. I'm just going to have to call him. He's just going to be Carson, I guess. No, for some reason I couldn't say that name right there. But okay. So I didn't know a lot about Schlesinger going into this. I've learned that he was a walk-on previously, primarily a special teams guy until last year. And then suddenly he led the FBS in tackles. He had 90 tackles. He was 3rd in total tackles. Those are solo tackles, 90 solo tackles, 136 total. First team All-America, first team All Big Ten, which sounds crazy to say because he went to UCLA. Still weird to me. I'll get used to it. He was a finalist for the Butkus Award. He had 4 sacks, a couple picks. He forced a fumble. I think he projects as a middle linebacker, but he might just be a little bit undersized. I think he's pretty good in coverage, right? Like we talked about the Jack Sawyer issue with the Steelers. Like, can he cover? Can he not? I think Schlesinger, that's something he can do a little bit. He's shown that.
Yeah.
He makes quick decisions. He makes quick reads on plays, but he's just a little bit. I think strength is a little bit of a concern with him. And again, you're going to add strength in the NFL. I know that. But he's shown a little bit of issues with lead blockers kind of coming through and neutralizing him in the hole a little bit. I don't know if you're going to see that in Cleveland or not, but I think he's a good player.
That's like the only Cleveland pick that really was like puzzling to me. I mean, yeah, you lost JOK, so obviously, you need to fill that hole.
Yeah.
But you look at it and you're like why? Like you said, like why him? Like, he's a little bit undersized.
Yeah.
And it's like you're thinking about it, like there could have been, like there was definitely somebody else out there that you could have got that was a bigger middle linebacker that could have fit your your run stopping needs a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think the Browns, it's like I think they went on a kick this year. They looked for first team All Americans, first team All Conference guys. They picked up a ton of them. I mean,
Yeah,
they really picked up a ton. But yeah, that was the 33rd pick overall. Is that right?
I believe so. Yeah,
that was 33, and then at 36 they turn around and, like you said, they get Quinshon Judkins, which I love. We know, right? As Buckeye fans, we know what Judkins can do. He's an explosive ball carrier. He seeks out contact. He's not really a make you miss kind of a guy. I mean, he's going to put his shoulder down and try to run over you, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that is going to pan out as well in the NFL as it did in college. He's probably going to have to learn to, when he hits the hole, there's trouble coming. Maybe get down or what. You can't take that many hits in the NFL.
But I think because the Browns drafted the second running back too, right? The guy from Tennessee.
They did. Dylan Sampson. Yeah, Dylan Sampson. And here's why I think they complement each other perfectly. Judkins is the blocker, right?
Yep.
He's the blocker. He's your between the tackles guy. He's going to get you not a ton of yards per carry, right? Like, think of Judkins as being like, if he ends up being like a bell cow kind of a guy, right? Like a workhorse. His load is going to look like probably 20, 25 carries, 80 to 85 yards, a touchdown or two. I mean, he's never going to be, he might have games, but he's not on average. He's not going to be like a 15 carry, 140 yard, 3 touchdown guy, right? Like, he's just not like, he doesn't have that gear, I don't think, to take it to the house in the NFL. He doesn't really do well outside.
No,
but he's a good blocker. He's a great blocker,
for
right?
sure. I saw somebody comment on this, and they were like, not only is Judkins, coming to the Browns expecting to be the number one back, like you said, his last year in college, they ran a dual running back system and both had career years. Yeah. And it was the exact same at Ohio State. They used Judkins talked about that one against Notre Dame where he broke it and got tackled at like the 10-yard line.
Yeah.
He's like, if you look at it, he's like, I was in there for 3 first downs, 3 second downs. Because he's like, I'd run the ball on first, second, then I get a first down. First, second, get a first down. First down, first, second, get a third down. He's like, on that second, third down, or on that third, second down, he's like, I broke it. And he's like, I was winded. He's like, people were calling me slow. He's like, I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And
he's like, there is that. I mean, we forget sometimes these guys are human. They're not machines, right? It's not a video game, right?
And people, somebody asked him questions like, are you mad that, Travion took some of your touchdowns? He goes, no. He's just like, that's what the system was. He goes, my whole job was to get him down there and he'd punch him in.
Yeah, they both knew that coming in. And that's the advantage of having a guy like Ryan Day who's very open with communication, right? Like, you got to tell guys. Sure. Like, I think guys want to know what they're getting into, what to expect, or whatever. And I think that's.
I think it would have been interesting to see what Ryan Day would have done if because he called Travion Henderson and said, hey, like, what if we bring this guy in?
Yeah.
Like, what if Henderson would have said, no, I don't want him?
Yeah, at that point, it's an organizational decision. If you think he helps the team, you're going to go ahead and do it. But then you might have seen Henderson enter the portal. I don't know.
Exactly. But I just think that, Ohio State had no scholarship guys hit the transfer portal this year. They were the only team in college football that didn't have a single scholarship guy hit the transfer portal. And I think that just speaks volumes to what Ryan Day is building at Ohio State. Like people want to be part of the
family type atmosphere, right? It's really a brotherhood.
Yeah. People want to be part of that culture and not just, I'm just here for the money.
Right. And he even said, I don't know if you saw, I just saw a post this morning where Ryan Day said, basically a message to recruits and whoever else, like probably transfer portal guys, like if your first concern is NIL money and that's what you're really going for, this might not be the place for you. And that's okay, right? That's okay. You can't pay everybody.
And I think that's a big reason why Ohio State was able to win it all last year, because after that Michigan game, my favorite thing was Will Howard coming out and saying, I still love these guys. I love this team. I love the state. He's like, I love Columbus. He's like, I'd do anything for these guys. These guys are my ride or die. And then you saw that Tennessee game where he came out, they came out, just lit the world on fire. And you're like,
they never stopped.
Yeah. You're like, okay, like these guys.
You can tell they truly cared for each other. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when Sawyer, another one of my favorite clips is when Sawyer had that strip sack fumble and he picks it up and Will Howard's over on the sideline yelling at him. They're both yelling at each other. That clip was legendary. Like you said, just Like that's the true definition of brotherhood. You know, all these teams preach brotherhood and brotherhood, but like
Yeah.
you got guys
When you're not just
out
happy for your success, like and you're not, yeah, you're happy for the team success, but when you're so happy for your guy that he just made that, like, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. I
And
love that.
off the show though, you said you had something to ask me about Trayvon Henderson and Buster Posey. While we're on
Yeah,
that
I
topic.
just I saw a stat and I started to compare him in my mind because I saw somebody posted that Buster Posey only had 12-year catching career. I know he missed some time with the broken leg, whatever. 27 pass balls in his entire career. And then you've got TreVeyon Henderson with over 600 touches in his Ohio State career, 0 fumbles. Which one of those stats is more impressive to you? I was trying to like go back and forth with that this morning.
I think it's
Remember, in one case, you've got guys trying to kill you, right? You got the ball in your hand.
yeah.
And then in the other case, you've got a ball coming at you. What? I mean, nowadays, 100 miles an hour, every pitch, almost every pitch, not every pitch, but a lot. Not easy.
If I had to pick, I think it would be TreVeyon with no fumbles because fumbles can change a football game like crazy.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, yes, pass balls can too, but like a pass ball with a runner on first doesn't really. It's just like a stolen base.
Yeah.
Like I think it's
puts
the
guy in a scoring position, but yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't give the other team the ball. Like there's no change of possession.
I think it's the perfect example of what Joe Burrow said. Like somebody asked Joe Burrow one time about about what he thinks about all the sacks he's taken. And he goes, he's like, I don't care about third down sacks. He goes, those mean nothing to me. He's like, it's essentially just a punt.
Yeah.
He's like, but first and second down stats, he's like, I'm gonna extend the play as long as possible and try and make something happen.
And it's better than throwing a pick on third down.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I think it's kind of the same way with this question. Like, TreVeyon Henderson had over 600 touches, and not once did he give the other team the ball off of one of his carries or receptions or touches, and but still, like the fact that you got 12 years, right? Do you know how many innings he caught?
I don't know the number right offhand now.
Let's look it up really quick. But I just think it's crazy though that you catch 12 years and only have 12 pass balls.
27 pass balls.
Yeah, 27 pass balls. Like
still impressive. Still really, really impressive. Yeah.
You think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yeah, I think so.
So in his career,
and I think he might be the last catcher besides Yadi. Well, Yadi will be first. I think he might be the last catcher that we see that happen to in a while, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of catchers now are I don't know. I think we've devalued that position a little bit. I don't think that's fair. But we don't look at catchers the same now that pitchers are throwing 100 miles an hour, right? Like we just don't really we don't look at them the same.
In his career, he caught 9,291 innings.
Okay.
And only gave up 27 pass balls.
Yeah.
Like that's
pretty impressive.
That's really impressive. Like
he's one of the good ones for sure. He's a great one.
Let's look what you can keep talking. I'll search up Yadier Molina stats here and we'll compare. I mean, people of my generation consider Yadier Molina the best catcher of our generation. Like
I don't think it's close. I mean, I saw Yadi do so many ridiculous things on the field. Literally baiting people into getting picked off, right? Like just playing games with people. I mean, he was that good. He was just that good.
Yeah. Yadier Molina
he was there for a long time, Ben.
Yeah, he was. Yadier Molina caught 18,000 innings in his career and had 96 pass balls.
Okay.
So, like, you think about it, right? Like, if Buster Posey would have played the same amount of years, would have played 19 years.
Yeah, but listen, how many people did Yadi then? But how many people did he then erase by picking off or throwing out steal? You know what I mean? Like,
well, let's find out. Yadier Molina.
Well, we don't have to get into it right now. We can talk about it.
No, I know, but Yadier Molina caught 381 runners in his career.
Okay,
like that's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
and Buster was.
Let's get back to the draft. I don't want to talk about this right now. Let's get back to the draft. Let's get back to the draft. But Judkins, 6 foot, 221. I think. I think he's kind of prototypical, right? You look at an NFL running back, like I expect him to make noise on this Browns roster.
I do too. He's got like that size. I think he's got like the size of like an NFL running back. Like you said, 6'1". He's a little stockier than TreVeyon.
Yeah.
He's not as quick as TreVeyon.
No.
But
probably not the high end speed that Henderson has now.
And I think he said it too. Like he's like, people are forgetting he's like that at Ole Miss, he's like, he's like, I would catch the ball a little bit too. So I think the Browns could use him. Like they used to use it. They used to throw that screen to Nick Chubb all the time. I think he's that guy that you could to shock some teams. You could turn around and throw him a screen pass.
Well, his skill set lends him. I mean, he can be a 3-down back. I mean, I have no problem. And I don't know if Dylan Sampson's going to make this team, but we'll talk about how they complement each other in a minute. I want to talk about Harold Fannin for a minute because Harold Fannin Jr. out of Bowling Green is really like intriguing to me as a prospect, right?
Yeah.
67th pick overall. Okay. I mean, you look at a guy who's a 67th pick overall, probably not an immediate starter. He's probably going to be a backup, right?
So I wanted to ask.
He's not a great blocker. We know that.
Yeah.
He's not a great blocker, but wow, his pass catching skills are off the charts.
That leads to my question. Do the Browns kind of use him like the Falcons use Kyle Pitts? Kind of use him as just a really, really big receiver?
I mean, maybe,
because
the only thing with Fannin is this. I think Pitts has a little bit more of maybe more of an advanced route tree than Fannin.
I would agree.
Right? Like as athletic as he is catching the ball, he's not super athletic in running his routes.
I would agree.
If that makes sense.
I would agree. I think Fannin will be a really, really good like goal to go guy. Line him up on like the end and run a back shoulder fade with him. Just because of his
size. He's got automatic hands.
How tall is he?
6'3".
6'3".
6'3", 241. Not huge, but he's got good athletic ability.
Yeah.
Strong.
Yeah.
He gets a lot of he makes a lot of he high points the ball well. He gets a lot of one-on-one situations. He wins those.
And that's what I'm saying. Like 6'3",
and he's from Canton. He understands the Browns and Browns fans and this whole dynamic. He understands that right away.
I think a good thing too, is like, he went to high school at Canton McKinley.
Mm-hmm.
He understands that toughness that, the Browns always talk about, in AFC North, you got to be, well, not every Brown, I'm not saying as sarcastically, but we'll say, when you play AFC North football, you have to be tough because, you're playing in 12-degree weather when we all saw the snow globe game from last year.
Yeah.
This guy,
which Jameis Winston loved, by the way.
This guy grew up in Northeast Ohio, right?
Yeah.
He played at Canton McKinley, right? I guarantee you, he's played in the snow, he's played in the rain, he's played in mud, he's played in just about everything. And that, I don't think that can prepare you more for the NFL coming into this place and being like, okay, hey, coach, I know I can catch the ball in this weather. I've played in it my entire life.
Yeah. Oh, listen, how about these numbers? 117 catches, okay? That was an FBS record for tight ends. It also led the FBS in catches this year. 1,555 receiving yards, which was also FBS record for a tight end. 10 touchdown passes. First team All-American, MAC Player of the Year, MAC Offensive Player of the Year. He was actually the first FBS tight end to win a Conference Player of the Year award. So I know it's the MAC. People are going to downplay it a little bit, whatever. First tight end to ever win a Conference Player of the Year. Nobody's done it before. Nobody's ever done it in the MAC, regardless, before. So he was also a finalist for the Mackey Award. I said, he has automatic hands. I think he just has a really good feel for going and getting the football, right? He may not be the most advanced route runner, but if you put it up near him, I think he's going to catch it. And I think this is the point of the draft where I expect Fannin to make a little bit of an impact here. I don't think he's going to be an every down tight end or anything like that. But I do think he complements Njoku well. But here's where the draft gets interesting for me, Ben. This is where it took a little bit of a weird turn. With the 94th pick, right? And the 2025 NFL draft. No, I'm not going to do that. The Browns took Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon. It confused me. I didn't necessarily understand the pick.
Yeah, I don't know why you took two quarterbacks. That doesn't.
Well, I mean, that regardless, I thought Gabriel would be there for maybe another 40 or 50 picks or more. I didn't see Dylan Gabriel on anyone's 3-round mock draft at all.
And didn't they trade back up too to get him?
No. I think they stayed at 94. I think they were at 94. I think they traded back up to get Sanders, but I don't know. Maybe they did. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
I know they traded up later in the draft. I just can't remember what round.
On draft day. But what do you think about Gabriel? I mean, what was your initial thought when you saw Dylan Gabriel was the pick at 94?
Again, I think it's kind of one of those things where it's he's not really elite at one thing. Don't get me wrong, yeah, he's the all-time leader in college football in passing touchdowns, right? But I mean that's not hard.
He tied Case Keenum, yeah.
It tied Case, but that's not hard when you play 7 years, 6 years, whatever he played. I mean, Case Keenum did it in 4 years. Do it in 4 years, and then I'll be impressed.
Okay.
But at the same time,
Dylan Gabriel.
It's not like he's it's not like when Marcus Mariota was coming out of college. Like we all knew Marcus Mariota was that elite dual threat quarterback, right?
Yeah.
He can hurt you with his legs, he can hurt you with his arm.
Yeah.
Like Dillon Gabriel, like from what I've seen people say is that like he's not elite at throwing the football. He can move a little
okay.
bit.
So these are weird stats. Okay, he at the Senior Bowl he had the highest velocity. Okay, at 70 miles per hour, he was like by far the highest at the Senior Bowl. But he doesn't throw a good deep ball.
Yeah,
it's confusing. I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's just a weird. He's just a weird prospect. He's not weird. I don't mean to say it like that. He's just like as far as football goes, he's kind of a. It's hard to. He's one of those tweener guys, right? The size concerns me a little bit. 5'11", 205. Not a big guy at all. I don't know. I mean, he was a third-team All-American this year, first-team All Big Ten. He's a Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, and then he finished third in the Heisman voting. But I think that kind of comes with, sometimes we
happens when you plan a high-powered offense like Oregon's.
Sometimes I think we get obsessed with passing yards. Okay, we look at passing yards, and we go, "Oh, this guy's great." Did you know that he had a huge number of his passes that were under 10 yards in 2024?
I did know that.
Enormous number. And actually, a quarter of his passes were behind the line of scrimmage this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's not throwing the ball down the field. I think on those intermediate routes, on the intermediate to longer routes, I think he tends to stare down receivers a little too much.
I would agree.
And I think that was his biggest problem the second time against Ohio State. I think they saw that the first time and basically knew how to read it, knew how to react off of that, knew what to do.
Going off that, too, I think it was kind of one of those things, too, that's like, again, it's going to hurt losing Jim Knowles because he was so good at this, but I think that helped Jim Knowles adjust, knowing like, look, yeah, he's not the tallest quarterback in the world, so if we get pressure in his face, he won't be able to see those underneath routes, and he'll be forced to try and throw the ball deep, and I think that's what helped us get pressure to him.
Well, and they didn't give him the middle of the field either. Remember early on in the season, the Buckeye season, they were just coming off the edge so hard, right? And they left the middle wide open. They didn't do that the second time against Oregon. They had fixed that by that time, so that made a huge difference as well. He just had nowhere to go. They were kind of just surrounding him in the pocket. And like you said, he's 5'11". He's not just going to throw it over that rush. He had nowhere to go. He had nothing to do with it. But yeah, I mean, 189 total touchdowns in college over 64 games is impressive. It is. It's 64 games though. It's a lot of games.
It is.
When we get to he's just really accuracy wise, he's just a little shaky to me. Like I said, in his intermediate throws, I feel like he just looks the ball in a little too long.
Yeah. When we get to the Cavs, I've got some news. My dad just texted me. So
all right. Breaking news? Is it breaking news?
It's not breaking news, but it's some news.
Oh, okay. All right, it's just news. Just news. It's not broken. It's just news. All right. Well, Dillon Gabriel, that was a weird pick to me. And then I'm not going to say this was a weird pick. I like this pick. I just didn't understand necessarily why this player fell as far as he did. But in the fourth round at 126, they took Dylan Sampson. And I think Sampson was he injured against Ohio State?
Yes, he was.
He was a little banged up at the end of the year. So I think some of that production went down. But man, this guy was a third-team All-American. He's the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, right? Like, I'm surprised the SEC Offensive Player of the Year lasted this long on the board. Maybe he's a little bit undersized. He's 5'8", 200 pounds, right? Not huge. But he's better at Judkins, and this is why I think they complement each other so well. Judkins is more of the inside runner. He's going to get you 3-4 yards of carry. Yep. I think Dylan Sampson can get outside and take it to the house a little bit better. I think he's
for sure
22 touchdowns at Tennessee. That's a school record that stood for almost 100 years at Tennessee that he broke.
Wait, how many touchdowns?
22 rushing touchdowns. Jesus. Yeah, 22.
Peyton Manning had the record, right?
What's that?
I said Peyton Manning had the record.
Yeah, for rushing touch, sure. Obviously, he was a great running back there. But I don't know. They didn't really throw to him at all. They didn't really. No. I mean, he wasn't a factor in the passing game at all.
Like you said, I also think this might be a hot take, but I also think that like where running backs go in the draft, I think teams look at like all your years in college, right? Because if you have one breakout year, team's like, okay, like was your team just really good that year and you had a really good offensive line?
Fair.
Or like if you look at Quinshon Judkins, the dude had 3 years over 1,000 yards rushing, right?
Yeah.
And
he's been so good since day one at Ole Miss.
Since a freshman at Ole Miss, right?
Yeah.
And you look at Trayvon Henderson too. Yeah, last year Trayvon Henderson was banged up. You look at 2 years before that, he was a 1,000-yard rusher.
When he's healthy, we know what he can do. I mean, Henderson's an absolute beast.
If you look at Sampson's stats, he's only had 1 year over 1,000 yards.
That's fair.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he's not good, But I just think when it comes to speculations of running backs, I think it's different than quarterbacks where, like,
Yeah.
a quarterback could sit for, 2 years. And I don't
And
think people
pop onto the
understand, like,
scene and really impress people to the
yeah,
point where he
but
goes top 5.
but I don't think people understand that, like when people sit in college, like, they're still developing. It's
Yeah.
different for a quarterback because quarterbacks every day, they're throwing to those receivers,
Mhm.
they're still getting good reps. Running backs, it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to get good reps that are like game reps because one,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to be tackled. You're not really going that hard in practice.
You're right. Yeah,
It,
you're right. The practice reps are very, very there's a different feel for a quarterback than there is for a running
yeah,
back. You're right.
and I and that's why I think a lot of times, like, you see these guys that sit for 2 years come in and instantly impact it because they've still been developing. They're still
Yeah.
getting good game reps. They're still getting receivers running at full speed,
Yeah.
and I just think it's different than, like you said, Quinshon Judkins' first day at Ole Miss or first year at Ole Miss rushed for over 1,000 yards as a true freshman in
Yeah.
the SEC, and you're like, okay,
Freshman
this dude,
All-American. I
yeah,
mean,
like,
first
this
team
dude's
All-SEC. Yeah, he
special.
was very good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I
I was
and
excited to get him in there. I was
and
I was
I think
surprised he came to Ohio State.
I think it's I don't think it's as much the same with receivers, but I think if a receiver has like 3 good years where he goes for 1,000 yards, he's a
Mhm.
solidified top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Like we saw it with Marvin Harrison Jr. We saw it
And I'm
with
surprised that they don't take more because running back, I think, is the easiest position, really, honestly, to just plug in and play.
I would agree.
I'm not saying it's an easy position to play. I'm just
No.
saying as far as like knowledge of the offense,
Yeah.
if you're just going to be a strictly like a ball carrier, right? You don't have to worry about picking up blitzes or whatever from that standpoint. I think just going out and being a ball carrier is probably one of the easiest positions. Just go out, like I said, plug and play, put him in there,
Yeah.
he goes.
And I think
Maybe defensive tackle is another one.
for like a receiver to go number 1 overall, it would have to be something like Jeremiah Smith is on pace to do. Have an
Yeah.
incredible freshman season, followed up by an incredible sophomore season, hopefully, and then followed up by an incredible junior season, hopefully,
Yeah.
without getting hurt. Right?
Yeah.
Like we saw Devontae Smith. Yeah, dude won the Heisman Trophy. He was drafted high, but he deserved it. Dude won he was the first receiver to win the Heisman Trophy in years.
Right.
Like when stuff like that happens, Devontae Smith had one breakout year, and it was the year he won the Heisman Trophy and was rewarded for it. But like if you're like an average receiver, that has 500, 800 yards a year, you probably go second, third round. I mean, that's not bad stats at all. But if you play receiver for 3 years and have 3 1,000-yard years, you're going in the first round.
Yeah. Yeah, that kind of production will get you a first-round pick. I agree. Or will make you a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Okay, so then at 144, we know the Browns took I mean, what do you say? The much maligned Shedeur Sanders? I mean, what happened? I've never seen a fall like this in my life.
The reports I'm seeing is that teams he didn't want to go to, he sandbagged his interviews.
Yeah.
Which
I mean, that's
doesn't
what we
look
hear.
good.
Who knows if that's the truth or not? Who knows?
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's just the reports I'm seeing. We'll probably never know the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's true, like, even the teams that you didn't sandbag, that's going to make those teams wonder, okay, did he sandbag us? Did he not?
You know what I just thought of? Let me ask you a question. Do teams do the Wonderlic test anymore?
I don't think so.
Okay, because I haven't heard about that in a couple of years, and I've just realized. I remember C.J. Stroud was like the big, like,
I think that was the last
enough to be an NFL quarterback, and that wasn't even true, by the way.
I think it was the last year they stopped it. I think it was mandatory for a while.
Okay.
And then I think it was like optional that teams could give it. And then after the whole C.J. Stroud thing, when they saw how good C.J. Stroud was, after it, I think teams like, yeah, we're just gonna stop. We're just gonna stop doing it.
Okay, fair enough.
Which I kind of agree with, right? Like, hey, let's make them take a test, and if they don't pass, they're not smart enough to be an NFL quarterback.
I don't really know that equates to anything that you really do as a quarterback. I mean, processing information as players are moving on a field in front of you is not the same as reading a math problem.
Yeah.
I don't really understand. I never understood it, I guess. Whatever. I don't think it was ever really a true. I mean, maybe it gives you an idea of a guy's ability to process the playbook information when you hand a whole new offense over and go, here, learn this in 3 weeks, and then we'll see it training camp. I mean, that's tough or whatever, but I don't know. But anyway, Shedeur Sanders. Do you think he makes the team?
I think he makes the team because, like, I think Shedeur Sanders is good, right? I don't know if he's elite. I don't know if he's great.
He set a lot of school records, right, at Colorado. He broke
did.
a lot of Colorado
He
school
did.
records. And I know Colorado hasn't had, like, much going on over the last
and
20 years or so since the offensive explosion.
yeah,
But
I'll
still,
I'll say this, right? If Shedeur Sanders plays and the Browns actually have a decent run game, I think Shedeur Sanders could be elite, right? Because I saw an interaction between him and Cam Ward, and Cam Ward's like, all you did was throw checkdowns and screens, and Shedeur Sanders like, yeah, he's like, I didn't have a run game, you
yeah,
did, and Cam Ward's
yeah,
like, you had a run game, and Shedeur Sanders is like, no, I didn't. He's like, I was our running game,
yeah.
and Cam Ward's like, if I did that, my completion percentage would have been 90%. Like, dude, you had a run game. Miami University's running back almost rushed for like 1,000 yards, I think. Like Shedeur Sanders literally did not have, like, I don't think they had a single 100-yard rusher all year.
I can't even think of who their running backs were. I can't. And I know there was a reluctancy at first from Deion Sanders to go that way, to run the ball, but maybe that's because they didn't have the talent on the roster. I wouldn't know. I wasn't there. I wasn't there every day.
And like, and I'll defend Sanders for that, right? Like, if you don't have a run game, right, it's hard to get safeties and corners to bite on the run or on the play action, because we've seen it with Pittsburgh the last couple of years. When you don't have a run game, you run a play action, the safety's just going to stand there and look at you like you're.
But he was still really good in the play action, right? Like he was still really good in the situation. So yeah.
And I think I think that's what makes him good, is that he was still able to get guys to bite, and he was still able to take those deep shots.
Yeah. Listen, he's got massive upside.
We know
he's pretty. Sometimes he goes for the big play. I think a little too much. We talked about the checkdowns and screens or whatever. Maybe he needed to check down a little more sometimes at Colorado, as opposed to hold on to the ball for an extra 2 seconds and trying to make the big play. I think that resulted in a lot of sacks and turnovers. But again, I don't know. I think he's got massive upside for a 5th round pick. I mean, everyone's saying, why would the Browns do this? He's a bust. He's going to be a butt. You can't be a bust from the 5th round. Do you like? Let's talk about the definition of what a bust is. Like, you can't be a bust from the 5th round, right? Anything he does basically in his NFL career now is a surprise by draft standards, right?
Yeah. So,
I mean, I know we talked about him as a top 5 pick, but listen, 32 teams didn't see it that way multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, he was passed over and passed over and passed over again. So it's not like, I don't know.
Before we move on to the Cavs, I want to ask you this. Do you think there's any chance Shedeur Sanders starts any games this year for the Browns?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a scenario where I can think of where that could happen. Yeah. I mean, Joe Flacco is 84 years old. Kenny Pickett is, I mean, it's right there in his last name, Kenny Pickett. He hasn't shown me much, I guess, in the NFL yet. If he comes out and looks like he's on fire and Pickett is the guy and they can win a few games, that's great. I don't know. As a Browns fan, it's like, maybe I don't want them to have like a 12-5 season this year, you know? Maybe I want to go 3-14 again and get a couple top 10 picks next year. I don't know. It's hard to say.
It is for sure. And I think, like I said, like, you know,
but yes, to answer your question, yes, I can see a scenario. Somebody gets hurt, maybe another guy goes down. You got to trade Flacco away or whatever, because I don't think Flacco's not the future here. I think they brought him back to have someone stable to come out in the first few weeks to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do that, right? Like,
I could see it being one of the things where, like, you know, like if Flacco comes out and plays really, really well, like, let's just say going into training camp, right? Let's say Shedeur Sanders beats Kenny Pickett for the second string, right? Like, say he comes out and like plays really well, balls out, right?
Okay.
I think.
Are you taking Dillon Gabriel completely out of the equation here? Because remember, he went way, way earlier than Sanders.
Yeah, I don't think Dillon Gabriel has a shot.
Okay.
I still think Kenny Pickett is better than Dillon Gabriel.
I think Gabriel gives you. I've said it before. I think Gabriel gives you a good look on the practice squad.
I would agree. I would agree. But I think it could be kind of that thing of like where, you know, hey, like you said, let's play Flacco the first couple weeks, right? If he comes out and goes 2-0, lights it up, you know, Browns score 30 points each week, you know, he has 3 touchdowns, you're like, okay, maybe we got something here, you know, and you roll with him. But say he comes out and throws up an absolute, say week 1, you get the win, right? You know, say he throws for, you know, maybe 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, maybe a pick, but you guys still get the win. You're like, okay, you know, and we got something here.
It wasn't overwhelming, but yeah.
But then say, you know, the second week you come out and, you know, he throws for, you know, $120 and 3 interceptions, and you guys get blown out, and you're like,
yeah,
okay,
which he's just as likely to do. I mean, I think we're just as likely to see Flacco go for 2 touchdowns and 3 picks as we are to see him go for, you know, 3 touchdowns and 1 pick.
Sure.
I mean,
I think, I think it wouldn't surprise me, if Flacco played like 4 games and then they, kind of say like, oh, like we don't think, Flacco gives us the best chance of winning. That whole speech that every team gives when, they decide to bench their quarterback for, the rookie.
Yes.
And then, Sanders could just start the last, 13 games of the season.
Yeah. Well,
but
I think ideally what they want is I think they want, like I said, to start Flacco to start the season. That's fine. I think they want Pickett to show something. I think they eventually want him to become the starter. But maybe they'll consider keeping him here, but they already declined the option.
I was just going to say, they just I sent this to my dad. The Browns didn't know that they had to decline his 5th-year option.
Yeah, I saw that. I heard that in the press conference. He said it was up to the Eagles. Andrew Berry said it was up to the Eagles. And I don't know if there was just like a date discrepancy there where Berry didn't know. I don't know. That was weird.
I was like, you're an NFL franchise. How do you not know that you have to?
I mean, we've got this Harvard conglomerate in the front office, and I mean, that's a big mistake. That was a big mistake. Maybe it was just it could have just been a misspeak. Who knows? I have no idea.
Yeah, but how about we move on to the only team that's good in Cleveland?
Oh, you mean the Rockers in a few years?
Yes.
The Cleveland Rockers. I am so excited. Oh wait, you didn't mean the Rockers.
I meant the Cavs.
The Cavs. I remember them. Didn't they beat somebody? They beat the Heat. They
dismantled the Heat.
They dismantled the Heat. Listen, the point differential for that 4-game sweep was 122 points. Ben, it's the largest in NBA playoff history.
Yeah, it's
and the Heat were a top 10 defense coming in. Please remember that. As we go on to this Pacers series, and everyone says, the Pacers are going to take them to 7. I don't know.
I told my dad, I said, if this Cavs offense is playing as well and as efficiently as it was playing in the Heat series, right?
Yeah.
Like,
who beats them?
Exactly. Even if they're efficient, right? Like, that means another team's going to have to be as efficient, or you're going to have to find a way to stop their offense.
I think they averaged 123 points per 100 possessions.
Yeah, that's more than they did in the regular season.
That's wild. Against the top 10 defense.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. Where, like, it matters. And we always say, like, it changes in the playoffs. It changes. Oof, man. They were good.
The news I said I had about the Cavs, my dad sent me a message saying that the Phoenix Suns are looking at Jordan Ott and Johnny Bryant, who are the Cavs' top 2 assistant coaches.
All right.
They're going to interview both of them for their head coaching opening. And I told my dad, I'm a huge fan of Johnny Bryant. I think he'll be a great head coach. He's been with Donovan Mitchell for years. He was in, I think he was in New York last year under Tom Thibodeau. And now he's part of the
I saw a picture of Thibodeau, by the way, the other day. I saw a picture of Tibbs with somebody had like long frizzy hair behind him in the stands.
Yeah.
And as I scrolled, I was like, wait, what? I'm sorry. It got me. It made me laugh out loud. I was like, hold on.
I just think that, when the top 2 assistants are part of this highly powered, well-oiled offensive machine, teams are going to look at them like, hey, we want a piece of that before.
This is how you've arrived, right?
Yeah.
When people are poaching your assistant coaches, right?
Yeah. And like I told my dad, I said, I hope with Kenny Atkinson, I hope he starts his own, coaching tree, right? Like, I hope each year. I mean, obviously, I don't want each year for us to, lose our top assistant, right?
No, you want some consistency, but if you want to be looked at like that around the rest of the league too.
Yeah, exactly. Like if Kenny's able to produce all these coaches back to back to back to back, and we're still able to win all these games, you're going to look at Kenny as like, okay, maybe he is really, really good and just wasn't given a fair shot.
And this is not lightning in a bottle, right? Like this guy's got something. Yeah.
And I also like I told my dad, I said, like, I don't think I've ever seen as like a head coach ever let assistants coach as much as Kenny Atkinson does with his assistants. Like,
okay, so there's some trust there on the staff. We know that,
and there is like me and my dad talk about all the time. Like, Johnny Bryant might see something, he might get up and he might coach for a minute or two on the sideline. You're like, wait, is he the head coach? Like, why is Kenny sitting on the bench? You're like, they're kind of like what? And then next second,
someone throw a ball sweep at him. What happened?
Yeah, and then like next second, Jordan Ott will get up and he's coaching. You're like, is he the head coach now? Like, what's going on here? But like you said, I think it's ultimately just that trust of like, like they're all a team and you need to trust your teammates to build a winning culture. And,
well, there's a reason you have those guys on the staff, right? There's a reason that those assistant coaches are there. I mean,
and
they're not just there to help you with your jumper in practice. Like they're
and I think that's what makes great teams great is, from the head coach all the way down to the last man on the roster, right? Like, when
some of the greatest teams, you remember assistant coaches. Like the Bulls always had Tex Winter with Phil Jackson. Like,
exactly.
I remember that. Like
exactly.
I remember that.
Like you just think about all these great teams, and it's like, and I've told my dad, I think Tristan Thompson in the playoffs, right? He's not going to play much, right? But he's your fourth coach, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Every time the guys come off the court, he's sitting there, he's pulling somebody's side, and he's coaching. And you're like, and then you're like, wait, is he the head coach now? Like what's going on here?
You definitely appreciate the guy taking that role on as a player
for sure. And and you can just tell with this team that like they have each other's backs and they care about each other, and that's
we talked about with the Buckeyes. Makes a huge difference.
Exactly. And like I told my dad, I said, those games when you get down, 10, 15, 20 points, you're like, most teams just fold under pressure and, game's over 2 minutes after that. With this Cavs team, it's not over till it's the fourth quarter and there's triple zeros on the clock. It is not over.
They seem to thrive on it, actually.
They do.
They seem to thrive on that.
And I told my dad, I said that Celtics
game. Remember that second winning streak they had? They never played well, remember?
Yeah, and still won 15.
So
and you're like...
They had like 3 games that were like 15 or 16 where they actually played well.
Yeah. And I told my dad, I said, that game when you were down 23 to Boston, in Boston, and Kenny Atkinson calls a timeout, Kenny Atkinson very well could have just said, look, guys, we're just going to kind of hand him the win here and we'll just move on. Yeah. But instead, he told him, he said, we're going to win this game. He goes, we're going to come back and we're going to win this game.
That's not how they're built. Yeah.
No. And then you fast forward to the fourth quarter, or you fast forward to the clip of Jason Tatum, saying, get the F out of here, and Jaylen Brown saying the same thing. And then you fast forward to the end of the game, and the Cavs game's over, and you're like, well, that backfired. You probably shouldn't do that.
Right. Yeah. Don't try to get in their heads. I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
But like you said, though, like if you're not a tight-knit group, you're not coming back from down 23 in the first quarter. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah, because it takes a total team effort. You got to have your guys. You got to have everybody's back, right? Like you can't just. It doesn't take one guy to come back from that. It's got to be 5. Well, even more than 5 people. It's got to be however deep that rotation is. It's got to be all the. It's got to be your whole team.
And
like I said, there are a couple interesting notes here. I want to. Should we be concerned? We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Should we be concerned at all that the Pacers beat the Cavs 3 out of 4 times?
I mean, Cavs weren't healthy in any of those games.
I think all 3 of those times were without Mitchell and Garland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. Here's something interesting.
Well, the third time Tristan Thompson had 21 rebounds. Tristan Thompson was your starting center.
Right.
The only time the Cavs were healthy, they beat the Pacers. The only time they were healthy.
That's fair. That's fair. Here's a note, though. I think this is interesting going into this series. Okay, fourth quarter scoring. The Cavs and Pacers are 1-2 in the league. They're right there with each other. The Cavs averaged 29.8 points a game in the fourth. Pacers were literally right behind them by half a point, 29.3. That's something to look into because now you've got another team, the Pacers. If they're down late, they're not going to go away.
No, but
right? Like Pacers, you can't go into the fourth quarter down or up 12 and go, okay, well, that's sealed up. We got that win. You can't do that against the Pacers.
Pacers were a lead after the All-Star break. They were really, really good. One of the
really good. They started playing really, really well. Yeah.
And I just think that, but like you said, the Pacers haven't seen us fully healthy all year. And I think resting Garland in those 2 Heat games, right? There was no need for him to play, right? Yeah. You're not down. It's not an elimination game. You don't need Garland to play, right? So
I saw someone say, how do you get a toe injury in the NBA? Are you kidding me? Like,
right? Like,
how do you not?
But even though, like, I don't think people understand, like, in professional sports, like, how much your body can recover in 2 days off.
No, yeah, it's huge.
Like playing at the college level, Chad. Like when you're playing every day or every other day for however many months the season is, and then you get 2 random days off, your body feels like you could run 2 marathons.
It's like the off season again. Like, things start to even up again. I agree.
And it's not like Garland, like wasn't working out. He was definitely still stretching. He was still moving, but he wasn't out there playing basketball.
Yeah.
And I think coming to the Pacers, I think that helps that he got those extra 2 days off because
fresh legs.
The team might be a little sluggish, and when you get to the fourth quarter, you might need somebody to lean on, and you look at Darius Garland and like, hey, hey, I'm fresh. Give me the rock. Let me do some scoring.
Well, listen to this. So game 1 is Sunday, right? We know it's Sunday, May 4th, right?
Have the times been announced yet?
No, I don't think the time's been announced. But here's something to keep an eye on for game 1. I think this was really interesting to me. So Donovan Mitchell has a chance to break a really, really kind of a pretty crazy record in game 1. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, it's the points per game.
Yeah, Michael Jordan. So Michael Jordan has 7 straight game 1s scoring at least 30 points, right? So does Donovan Mitchell now. 7 straight game 1s in a playoff series scoring at least 30 points. So if he can go 30 or more against the Pacers, he's going to break Michael Jordan's playoff record. That's that's like the standard that we set, right? Like we compare everybody to Jordan. Like, well, here's the measuring stick. If you don't do what Jordan did, you're not good. I mean, that's pretty strong from Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
and
impressive.
and kind of like we
So
talked
you can
about.
watch the game to keep an eye on just that if you want.
Yeah, and kind of like we talked about with your buddy Rayshawn last week about the Cavs and about how we needed Evan Mobley to step up, right? Like
Yeah,
in that Heat series, I think Mobley could have scored 0 points and had 0 blocks, and you still win that series. I don't think it really mattered.
yeah.
And Evan Mobley all year, when you've needed him the most, right? He's had a huge block, or he's had a huge, like that Celtics series, that Celtics game, right? Start the fourth quarter. We were down like 10 still.
Yeah.
He comes out and hits 3 straight buckets and has 9 quick points. You're like, wait, it's a 1-point game now. What the heck happened?
Yep.
And I think as the competition gets better in these playoffs, I think Mobley's only going to elevate himself because everybody keeps saying it. Dating back to you look at that Game 5 last year against Boston, right? Evan Mobley had 34 points and 13 rebounds when he wasn't.
And he was clearly hurting.
Yeah, he wasn't considered elite yet either, right? And this year now he's an all-star.
Yeah.
And look at Jared Allen.
Everybody was hurting last year at the end of the year.
Look at Jared Allen in game 4 against the Heat. Dude almost had a triple-double with steals. Dude had 6 steals.
Right.
I told my dad, I said,
that's impressive.
I told my dad, I said, how many teams have 2 centers that can guard on the perimeter 1 through 5?
I can't think of anybody.
Like, I'm not saying Jared Allen's good at guarding 1 through 5 on the perimeter, but he's done it all year.
If he's forced to, he can hold his own.
Yeah. And I've told people
maybe you can't sustain that for a 7-game series,
sure.
But yeah.
And going into that Boston series, right? Boston, Chad, I harp on this all the time. Boston likes to get Darius Garland on that pick and roll between Tatum and Porzingis and switch Garland onto the bigger defender, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Cavs realized in that when they came back from down 23, there's a clip. If I can find it, I'll send it to you, Chad. Maybe we play it next week on the show.
Sure.
If
the NBA will let us, they get very angry when we play things on the show.
That is true. Yeah. If not, we'll look. I'll just tell you guys where you guys can find it. But it's a clip of Dean Wade with Darius Garland, and it's Tatum trying to get Garland into the pick and roll onto Porzingis.
Right.
And Dean Wade flashes like he's going to switch, and then last second switches back and causes a turnover.
Yeah.
And Garland looks at him, and gives him a little, like fist bump. And I think
hey, that's what we talked about, right?
Yeah. And I think now adding DeAndre Hunter into that mix, right? When you're closing that game, and you're 5 to end the game is DeAndre Hunter, Mobley, Allen, Mitchell, and Garland, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna want DeAndre Hunter guarding the ball.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that makes me a little more excited too about if the Cavs get by the Pacers, which I think they will. If they get by the Pacers and they go on to play Boston, the roster's different this year. The whole feel is different. They're as long as they're healthy, I feel much, much better about this year's series than I did last year.
And like I told my dad too, I said if any game, the only time we don't have home court advantage to our favor is in the NBA Finals, right?
Yeah.
In the Eastern Conference, you got to come to Cleveland and you got to beat us 3 times on our home court.
Yeah. It's not an easy place to win.
And the Cavs have the best home record in the NBA. So you got to come into the Rocket and beat us multiple times to win a series in Cleveland. I don't think
I agree. It's going to be tough. Well, so, okay, real quick, just give me what do you think? Cavs win this series with the Pacers? How many games?
I think 4-1 or 4-2.
Okay, I think Cavs in 5.
I think the Pacers get a couple.
Fair enough. I think they win in 5. Before we wrap this up, we got to get out of here. Before we wrap this up, I do want to say that just other than the Donovan Mitchell thing, breaking the Michael Jordan record in Game 1, Game 1 is really, really important for the Cavs. I don't know, all time when they win Game 1 in a playoff series, they're 21-1.
I wonder what the one series they lost is.
I didn't get a chance to look it up. I meant to look that up, but I'd like to look that up. But also, I want to say before we get out of here, please remember Friday night on the Whatnot app. Remember, we had Andrew Boudet on the show. Please go check him out. Card Block Breakers. He's going to be doing his very, very first break. There's a whole lot of product I posted on the Facebook page. You can go check that out. You go to our Facebook page and check it out. There's a whole lot of different product that's going to be available. A couple different mystery signed jerseys. No idea who the jerseys are. That's pretty exciting, right? You got a chance to win those. So please, that's Friday night. He's going to be getting started at 9:15 on the Whatnot app. Just go look for Card Block Breakers. It's all one word. You can search them on Whatnot. It comes right up. You can follow. You can set your notifications so they'll let you know when he goes live. But please go help him out. Please go check him out. I mean, if you don't buy in to the break, that's fine. But go hang out in the chat room, whatever. Spend a few minutes, watch. enjoy that or whatever, and just and help him out. That's
one last thing before we leave. I just saw a
wasn't
stat
done
on
yet.
Twitter.
Wasn't done yet. Wasn't done
Oh,
yet, Ben.
Sorry, go ahead.
He is a friend of the show, so I just please, I he helps us. I want you to help him if you can. Go ahead, Ben.
We're talking about how Mitchell and Garland both missed the last game of the season. Mobley also missed the last 2 against the Pacers as well.
Yes.
So
that's a pretty large. Yeah, that's a substantial piece of your.
But yeah, go support Andrew. It'd mean a lot to the show with him, being a watcher, and just like you said. I mean, if like we said last week, if it's something that interests you, it's be a good way to start getting into it. I think I'm going to try and stop by. It's something that's, I've been intrigued by after listening to him talk about it. And
I signed up for my Whatnot account today. I finally did it today, and I'm going to be there. I plan on being at least in the chat room. I'll probably buy into the break and see what happens.
I probably won't buy in, but I think I'll be there and just see what it's like. And then maybe next time he does one, maybe I might buy into it. And I think it's cool. Like it really intrigued me because I'm getting back into sports cards, like he said, and it's kind of one of those things. It's like, if it's something new that's involved, it's like, hey, like sign me up. Like I'm down to check it out. Like,
right. No, it's a cool thing. Yeah, definitely go help him out. And when you get there in the chat, tell him the Sports Show with No Name sent you, so he knows where you came from. And that's all we got for you this week. I think next week we're going to talk about. We got to get back into baseball.
We do.
I was going to tell you the Braves are creeping back up. They're almost 500.
Braves are heating up.
They're almost at 500. They've been playing well offensively. Their numbers are through the roof since their home opener. And they've changed their approach at the plate. We'll talk about that next week. We'll change our approach at the plate next week. Hopefully, maybe. Maybe we'll try to switch it up, or I'll put Ben on the other side of the screen or something. But hey, listen, guys, thanks for watching. We appreciate you. We will see you next Wednesday. Gosh, man, until then, just enjoy all the NBA playoff basketball, and I don't know, read all the draft grades that don't make any sense because we're giving people A+ on guys who've never even taken an NFL snap, and we won't know until 5 years from now what their careers are going to be. But you can read all the draft grades if you want and read how the Browns did a great job, supposedly. I agree with it. I like the draft, but whatever. You may not. Let us know in the comments. Whatever. If you comment on the show, go to our Facebook page, post, whatever. Just let us know. If you agree with the Browns draft, you loved it. If you hated it, let us know. And tell us what you think for the Cavs Pacers. Cavs in 5, 6, 7. Pacers? Who knows? We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks a lot.